Hi guys, welcome to the In the Game Room podcast. I am Alan and I am out in the game room at my painting table, and I want to talk to you guys tonight about a product that I just discovered recently. This is, see if I can get that in focus. Yeah, it's pretty good right there. This is made by Warlord Games, or it's made by War World, I'm not sure, but it's sold by Warlord Games and it's in their Battlefields and Basing series, and it's called Fine Base Render. Now this product here is essentially some sort of sand in a mixture of presumably some sort of glue or adhesive and then probably some brown acrylic paint or something. Sounds pretty simple. I can hear it already. There's a few of you out there. I know you guys online. You're saying, well, I could make a 55-gallon drum of that shit for $8. If you're one of those guys, I'll give you a minute. Go find a cat video. We'll wait. Okay, so for everybody else that has an open mind about new products that may or may not be useful, let's talk about this one. Like I said, it appears to be some kind of sand, or a fine sand in a slurry of goop, which I assume is, you know, some sort of adhesive, glue or whatever, and then some sort of pigment, paint or whatever in there to make it brown. Seems simple enough, right? And you could obviously make something like this yourself if you wanted to. However, this is sort of ready to go, so wanted to give this a test. Now when I first saw this, I did kind of think like, well, that's kind of something you could just make yourself, and it probably is, but I thought I'd give it a try anyways and see if there's anything special about it. And I discovered that, I don't know if it's special or not, but it's a pretty damn good product and it does what it's supposed to do and it does it well. Before I get into how you actually use it, I'll do a demonstration. I'll show you guys. I might have to post a few pictures up so you can see better, but I'll show you guys a couple of bases that have been done with this. No, it's still focusing on me. Okay, this is really not going to work. So I'll post some pictures up and you can see. But basically these bases here that I'm going to show you pictures of here in a second, I put this material on and that's all I've done. I haven't done anything else. I just put this on and let it dry. Now you could leave these just like this and they look pretty good. You could paint the ground covering to whatever, you know, color you want it to be, and then you can even do a wash. You could do some highlights on the rocks and things like that. It's totally up to you how you want to finish it. Now the way I've done it for my desert guys, let me grab one over here. Again, you probably won't be able to see this on the camera too well because it keeps trying to focus on me, which is actually the camera's job. What I did is I put the fine base render on, let it dry, and then I used my normal white PVA type adhesive, painted on everywhere, and then sprinkled on some more products from the same company, the desert sand and the rocky sand, I think it's called. I have a mix of those two that I use for my desert bases. So basically I use the fine base render just to create some texture so the base wouldn't be perfectly flat, and then I put the ground covering on, which was the sand and the rocky sand, and then a few tufts of gamer's grass, and it came out looking really nice. But again, I think you could get away, if you like the look of the fine base render just on the base and let it dry. If you like that look, then you're good to go right there. But again, you could paint it, you could wash it, you can, you know, dry brush it, whatever you want to do. But it's a pretty cool product, I think. Like I said, I was a little skeptical at first. I thought, yeah, this is just, you know, it's just a bunch of sand and glue and brown. But it is pretty good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move the camera. I'm going to bring it over here. I've got a figure here. This one's not quite done yet, but we're going to use it anyways, in spite of its broken gun and its unfinished appearance. We're going to use it to show how this stuff goes on, and a couple of tricks I've picked up along the way just by kind of figuring out the best way to do this. So I'll move the camera, we'll get it set up, and we'll do a little how-to.
A few moments later.
Okay, so we have the camera set up here so I can show you guys how I use this stuff. What you're going to need is some kind of little spatula type thing, something to, you know, scoop it out and apply it. You're going to need a paintbrush. This one here is a flat brush. It works out pretty good for this. And you might even want like a toothpick or something. We'll see how all these kind of work together here in a minute. So we open this stuff up, and it is just, it feels like a cement or concrete that you just mixed up, you know, but without any of the big rocks in it. It just feels like the sand and the wet stuff. Anyways, so what I do is take out a little bit of this here, depending on how much you want to build up, but I'll just plop some on here on the base. See that? Just a little bit on there, maybe a little bit back here. And then I found that using a spatula to kind of smooth it out doesn't work real great because it is very pebbly. There's a lot of little gritty sand bits in there, so it doesn't spread out smoothly. You can kind of get it started spreading out. And then what I do, that's when this brush comes in. Dip this brush in some water, which I'm doing off camera, so you got a nice wet brush. And then make sure I get this angle right here. Then you can just come in with that wet brush, and you can kind of push the stuff around, and the wetness of it kind of thins out the mixture a little, and it kind of flows around a little better. Now I'm working on the back side here so you guys can see it, but I can't see very well, so I gotta move around the front here. Get the brush wet again, and trying to make sure you guys can see what's going on. There we go. Again with the wet brush. And the wet brush it's very wet. It's not just wet and then, you know, wipe it off or whatever. Just leave the water on so it'll kind of thin this out and let it flow a little. That's the trick that I picked up for applying this. And then once you think you've got about as much on there as you want, and I got plenty on there, it doesn't take a lot really because you're just putting a thin layer. Once you got as much as you want on there, then I'll go back with the wet brush again and just, if any got on the boot, kind of wash that off. And I probably used a little tiny bit more on this than I would have liked to, but it was just a quick demo, so I just plopped some on there for you guys. But where is it? Here it is. So that's what it looks like, and just while it's still wet. And you can see it looks quite a bit different after it dries. Again, I'll have to put up some photos because I don't think this is picking up too great on the camera. But that's the trick. That's the only trick I found. I mean, getting it on there, spreading it out is the wet brush. That's the big trick. For some of the ones like these guys here, the prone rifleman or anti-tank rifle guy, getting the material up in between the legs there, that's where the toothpick came in handy, just kind of pushing it around and getting it worked into where it needed to be, and then kind of like up under his arm and things like that. The toothpick comes in handy for that. But basically some kind of little spatula thing to plop some on the base, and then a wet brush to kind of manipulate it and move it around. It's a little bit of a technique you'll have to, you know, experiment with and try, but it's pretty easy to get, you know, good results, I think, with this stuff. And I like it. It's I didn't really expect to. I thought this was going to be one of those things where, you know, I should try it because this is a product I sell. I should know something about it. And this is not a commercial for this product. I'm actually out of stock on it at the moment. I hope to get some more in pretty soon. But this was the last one on the shelf, so I'm not sitting here trying to sell you this stuff, you know, to you guys. But I am telling you that I think it's a cool product, and I'm using it, and I'm going to keep using it because I like the way it works. So there's your little tip for the week. It is, again, fine base render. They make a medium base render, which is more gritty. It's a bigger pebbles in there, and I found that really difficult to spread around because the sand bits are, you know, so much larger. So I like the fine base better. The medium is actually a different color, as you can see, which doesn't really matter too much. Oh, get it over here. As you can see now, it's quite a different color. But it's just the size of the grit in there that was a problem for me. I just found it a little too difficult to smooth around. However, I wasn't using the wet brush technique at the time, so maybe it's a little easier than I think. But even then, I think the the size of the pieces of sand in the medium in this scale would be like, they would be, big rocks. They'd be like grapefruit size, and that's a little big, I thought, for what I was trying to do. So anyways, it's like $8 a tin. It's not a tin, it's a plastic thing, but whatever. It's $8. I think it's worth it. Yes, it is probably something you can make yourself, a little trial and error, get the right amount of glue, the right amount of brown paint, the right consistency of sand or whatever. But if you don't feel like fucking around, this will get you going right away. So there you go. That's it for tonight. Just a quick little tip on some new basing material that I've just discovered, and I'm liking it. So that's it for tonight. Talk to you guys later, and keep on gaming.